Hey guys, Nigan here bringing you a big Nightreign update video. So today over on the official channel, FromSoft showed off a new Elden Ring Nightreign, what they called an overview trailer, where they went over a bunch of stuff about the game, an overview you could say, including things like the general gameplay arc, which at this point we kind of, have a general gist of. The beta test was available a little while ago, so let me know down below if you played that and how you got on with it. But it was broken down into a bunch of different parts where they went over a whole bunch of info. So you can see here, part one is Limvel, the world that Elden Ring Nightreign is set in. They gave us a little bit of lore. Obviously, like any Souls game, the lore is not super clear. But we will touch on later. They did mention some interesting little info nuggets you can pick up in the game. But obviously this is not quite exactly the world that we were set in Elden Ring, although it is very, very similar. And they essentially covered here the general gist of the gameplay with the world that is kind of procedurally generated. Certain landmarks may appear in different runs, but obviously the layout of the map is going to be different. And they very much in this part discussed your options when it comes to the world map, whether you want to seek out as many enemies as possible to kill and farm XP, whether you want to find little stashes and treasure troves like you see here, little dungeons, little enemy bases where you can find maps that give info on special items and locations, which I think is something that at least I was not aware of before. I don't know if that was in the beta. Or they mention here obviously the ability to hunt out special, almost like mini bosses that will give you decent XP and rewards as well. So a lot of stuff here about the overall map and just talking about your exploration through the 3-day cycle before you end up coming up against the boss at the end of the 3rd day. And you can see here a lot of interesting looking landmarks. Some of these will be familiar if you played the beta. Some of them definitely new in this reveal trailer. And then you can see here they show the Morgott attacking an meteorite striking the ground that creates a giant crater. So they essentially talked about some things that can happen procedurally during the run that will change the layout of the map, which seems really interesting. A Volcano Manor-esque area here. They talked about craters and volcanoes erupting, this evil looking forest, and they mentioned what essentially sounds very much like Scarlet Rot, everybody's favourite toxic-esque mechanic from Elden Ring. But you can see here a lot of beautiful visuals. There's that absolute nightmare madness tower from the base Elden Ring. So lots of interesting locations are going to be shown in this game. And then part 2 goes into the threats of the night. So obviously here they talk a little bit about, as the game cycle goes on, the night encroaching on you and closing down the map a little bit, closing your areas of exploration. So that's something you want to factor into your game plan as you go into these runs, right? If there's an area you want to check out because it looks like it could be an interesting area with loot or a mini boss or something, but it's quite far off to the edge of one of the maps, you want to focus on getting there first before the map closes in and you're unable to get there. So they mention, of course, as you fall to the threats of the night, you can revive your fellow players. I do think it's funny that the revival mechanic essentially is you just have to hit your allies while they're down on the floor, and then they'll be able to get back up, which of course makes ranged characters very useful. And that brings us to the Nightfarers section. So you can see there's our boy the Iron Eye. They showed for the very first time in this trailer the archer character who was not available in the live beta, and they show the Raider who was recently shown on a Twitter preview, who was like a Viking two-handed weapons, like heavy attack character. So they went over a few of the characters here and their abilities. Wilder, I know, was a popular one a lot of people played as during the beta. He has the grappling hook thing. You can pull enemies towards you or you can zoom towards enemies, and then he has the wrist-mounted cannon. Guardian, the Birdman, is kind of the tank, right? He has the giant shield and the halberd. He has an AoE special ability that can launch enemies up into the air. And then his ultimate is, of course, this big flying down crashing attack, which I hadn't realized. I don't know if that was the case in the beta. It also creates an AoE buff for your enemies as well, for your allies, which is really cool. And then this is Iron Eye, the archer. As you can see, he's got some cool like evasion attack moves. He has a special ability where he can mark enemies. As you can see there, that guy has a debuff like red symbol on him. I love the fact his backstab is essentially he point blank shoots them in the back and then pulls the arrow out. And then his ultimate ability, you can see there, is a huge arrow shot that basically just goes in a long straight line and goes through all enemies. So it will deal damage to all enemies in a straight line. Then we see I think it's Duchess, right? The rogue character that was also in the beta. Her abilities were kind of confusing to get used to at first in the beta. Her ultimate makes you invisible, which, as you can see here, you can set up some funny shenanigans with creating ambushes for the enemy. But her main ability kind of like rewinds time. And so if you've just landed like a massive attack on an enemy, or an enemy's done a big AoE attack on you, you can like replay it so it then damages them. And then this is the Raider, big heavy weapon boy. He has a stance counter thing like this, where essentially the attack can't be interrupted by enemy attacks, and then it can stun even the biggest enemies. You see him stunning the dragon there. And then his ultimate creates this giant like plinth that you can stand on. Not only does it give a buff in an area of effect to your allies, but as you can see, you can use it strategically as a platform to either hide away from enemies or launch jumping attacks and things like that, right? Then we have the mage character, who I think, judging from the very brief run I did as her in the beta, may be one of the harder ones in terms of like skill, because she has a thing of combining all these different types of magic. And at least in the beta, there wasn't like a really easy and regular way you could regain her mana, but her ultimate ability puts that special red target on an enemy, and all allies and yourself, of course, attacking that enemy are able to regen health and mana, so that's really good. And then you see here a little preview of the two final characters, the guy with the golden katana, the woman with the harp. We don't know yet what their abilities are going to be. The katana guy is supposedly going to be sort of similar to a Sekiro-esque mechanic, where he has parries and counters, and then the harp lady, I saw some rumors about her being very summon based, so that's very interesting. Then they jump in here to talk about runes. This was something that was obviously difficult to get used to in the beta, because especially on the first day with the game not being super stable, a lot of people not necessarily able to complete multiple runs, and the runs that I did get, some of the runes weren't compatible with the characters that I was using. But you can see here at the round table hold, there's going to be a little pot merchant where you can exchange things for other different runes, other different crafting materials. And then a big thing here for fans, they highlighted the appearance change options. You can see here the characters have some differing costumes, as well as, there he is right there, the Faram set. There's Solaire and there's Leonhard from Dark Souls 3. So there not only will be customizable costumes for your characters that are obviously unique designs for them, but a couple of famous faces from the Dark Souls franchise. I say the famous faces, right? It's their armor sets, which, you know, even in the previous games have been available for you to get for your characters, but those will be available for certain characters. Now, obviously there it showed like Solaire was on Guardian, the Faram armor was on Wilder, and the Leonhard I think was on Iron Eye, right? He had a bow. There's no telling yet whether they will be specific only to the certain classes or not. But then they move on to this interesting segment here. This is talking about the ability to get extra lore for your characters in the playthroughs. And it's something that's completely optional, as Souls games have very often done in the past, right? Where if you want that lore, it's there for you to explore. And you can find things on missions. Like we saw here, there was the objective achieved. Like you can unlock some lore, and then it'll give you like an optional objective. The next time you go on a mission, it will give you a task to go off and do during that mission, and if you accomplish it, you can then get extra little scenes where you can interact with the other Nightfarers and learn a little bit more story, not just about your character that you're playing as, but the other characters as well. And then part 5 was the Night Lords. Now, I don't think they showed anything particularly new. The three-headed Fire Cerberus was the only Night Lord that was available during the beta. These guys we've seen in some of the previous promotional arts, the Centaur, the dragon with like the split head, and the sort of like goat mage guy. I do believe they show at least one new one here, but we see some of their crazy attacks. The trailer is talking about obviously these enemies being the most powerful enemies you will come across, with the most damage, the most defense, and of course the whole point of the run is that you build up over those 3 days to build up your equipment, to build up your abilities, and give you the best possible chance of taking these guys out. But they show this horrible abyssal thing that was always a nightmare of a boss in Elden Ring, and then we also have our boy right here with the dragon arm. Like I was very surprised to see him appearing as a boss, and so very interesting. Unfortunately, no Nameless King, no other Dark Souls bosses or anything like that. But yeah, very interesting set of info. They show obviously the release date, which we know, May 30th. They show the different editions of the game. There's this big collector's edition that comes with the Wilder statue and some cards and an art book, and there's a deluxe edition with the soundtrack and some DLC. And then of course anyone who pre-orders the game gets the gesture, the "It's Raining" gesture, which I think Elden Ring had one. I think Dark Souls 3 might have even had one as well. Just the random gestures. I believe that the gestures that are available from pre-orders have always been then available for you to just find in the game anyway, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. But obviously if you know you're going to get the game, nowadays when it comes to pre-ordering, because so much stuff is digital, it's literally just a case of, as long as you buy it like even up to the day before it officially releases, right, it counts as a pre-order, so you will be able to get the bonus gesture. So let me know what you guys think about all of the info from the overview trailer. If you watched it yourself, obviously do let me know which part you found the most interesting, which part you are looking forward to the most when the game comes out. And obviously stay tuned to the channel, make sure you are subscribed. I'm going to be doing a whole load of Nightreign content. I want to be doing overviews of the characters, giving advice for builds, going over like the rune system when it comes out, how to get the most out of your builds for your characters, and even talking about which character will be the best for your playstyle when the game comes out. So if you want all the news and all the gameplay tips and guides for Nightreign, do make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Do go check out my other socials as well, the Instagram, the TikTok. I'll be posting a bunch of clips, not just of gameplay, but builds and advice and stuff over there as well. So make sure you're following all of that stuff under the Ningen Plays umbrella if you want all the news and guides on Elden Ring Nightreign. And hopefully I will see you guys out there. So that is going to be it for the video. This has been Ningen. Let me know how you guys are feeling about Nightreign. Are you getting it? What platform are you getting it on? And let me know what's got you most excited about Nightreign. So that's it from me. I will see you all next time. Peace out.